You need to understand that when you look backwards, you give someone the opportunity to pass you. This is the Amplify Your Business podcast with Matt J Hanham, where I have candid conversations with inspiring people and turn topics inside out to help you get amplified in business and in life. Welcome everyone, this is an Inside Out episode, and today I'm going to be discussing adapting to changes in marketing. What does that even mean? I don't know. I think marketing is change, but who knows? Well, let's chat about adapting to changes in marketing. So, people often think that it's the platform, it's not working for them. It's Facebook, it's SEO, it's TV ads, it's whatever. It's the print ads. It's not working. But often, I find it's the content that is wrong, and it's all you can focus on is the content because. Look, you can get better at working with the platforms, but it's truly the message and the content that is the biggest indicator of, how much success you have in reaching the clients or the people or the customers that you're trying to reach. In asking those, you need to ask yourself, what would grab someone's attention and what is worth people's time? Look, in asking those questions, you discover what you need to do. And too often people run a set of ads and they don't work and they just give up. The information you need is probably in those failed ads. So what do you need to do? You need to analyze that. The information is right there in those failed ads and they could present the next opportunity. You can't remain stable in a world that constantly moves. And if we run a digital marketing company over here, a digital media agency, there's almost no day that's the same as yesterday. And even though we're often doing the same thing, there's always some little iteration in how the content's being produced, in what technology that we're using. There's always a new app. There's always a slightly faster computer or an upgrade to the software that we're using to edit videos. There's always something that's changing. And you can't just remain stable. The world is always moving. And I find that people just waste far too much money in marketing things that used to work. So what worked maybe 5 years ago, look, let's just do that again. Now it may work, but you have to consider the fact that the needle has shifted. And even if you're using that same medium, and let's say we're talking about a newspaper, maybe you need to approach the content that goes into that newspaper differently to speak to, the buyers, the customers, the people you want to listen or consume your content. Look, we're no longer watching TV the same way. We're looking at our phones all the time. So why do we spend the massive dollars on TV? TV still can be lucrative, but you've got to get it right. And again, you've got to have the right message. But just because all those dollars have shifted, a lot of dollars have shifted from TV. But just because those dollars have shifted across to Facebook and the like doesn't mean they're being well spent. And the same issue arises. I don't know what it looks like for the rest of you around the world, and I haven't really gone to too many regional areas around the world and checked out the TV. But if I live in a capital city in Australia. I'm in Perth, as people know, and if I go out to, let's say, regional Western Australia, and I turn on my TV, maybe I'm catching up the score in a sporting game or something like that, checking out the football, some basketball. I'll turn it on and there'll be this guy and his name's Doug. And his shirt doesn't really fit too well. And he's got his kids next to him and he's driving his tractor and he says, "Come to my shop and buy tractor parts. I'm Doug." It's not great. It's not great. It's not great content. And look, it's a little authentic. I'll give him that. But, it's not amazing content. And these ads have been on TV forever. They're still there, or as long as I can remember. And that I think that's the point. You need to know who you're talking to. In regional Australia, this guy, Doug, is talking to his audience, and it's okay to put that content out. The content makes sense because it makes sense to the people in his local area. They understand who he is, where he is. They probably have heard of him before, and the content's okay. But if he was putting that ad up here in the capital city, people would just switch off immediately because it just doesn't have the depth of, scope and effort and skill that's gone into the construction of the media. So And that's what I'm talking about with even the money that has shifted to Facebook and Instagram. We're still trying to put the same messages and the same content out across that we did before. But that message doesn't make sense on this platform. You've got to understand what people are doing at the time. If they're on Facebook, if they're on Instagram, they're flicking through, looking at highly engaging content. And then if you put something that's just screaming, buy a vacuum cleaner, it's not really what the consumer of the platform was looking for at the time. It's not really what I guess a TV viewer is wanting either, but we've been highly conditioned to receive those messages, via that form of media. We don't look at the billboards the same way. And the only reason I say that is I still think billboards are great, but the majority of people, if you walk down a busy street, people are looking down at their phone. So they probably have very little chance of seeing the billboard. We listen to radio less and less. And I guess the point is, like, what does all this mean? The point is that everything's changing all the time very quickly, and you can't be static. Whether you're a business owner, a marketing manager, planning on getting to business soon, you need to actually just be constantly watching what's happening. One of the best ways is to just model what you're seeing and find things that you think make sense to you. Your own behavior is a great indicator. If you could put your independent cap on for 1 minute and think about the ad that you were about to put out, and if that ad makes no sense to you, you'd be disinterested in what that was, and you would just pass it on by. Why do you expect someone else to engage with it? So what does this all mean, and what can you do about it? So I said it right there. Don't produce content for your own self-interest. Produce for the audience that you want to speak to, the customers you're hoping to engage with. All the posts shouldn't be about you, and they shouldn't be all about what you're trying to sell. If you're going to do anything on these platforms, you need to understand that social media, the word social is important. It's about community. It's about finding out information about what's going on with people, and business and all that is included. But you can't just go, buy a vacuum cleaner, buy a vacuum cleaner, buy a vacuum cleaner. It just doesn't work. It doesn't line up, and no one's going to enjoy that content. What will actually happen if we do it too much? It'll just crush the platform. People would get tired of it. I already hear people saying, "Oh, I'm switching off Facebook. It's I'm tired of the ads." Now, I think that they're being extreme and they're looking for a way out, but it's something that people are saying. If you want to have a personal brand and be an influencer, you need to understand that in this world of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, everyone's gonna do that. They're gonna talk about themselves, and so many people are gonna just put out content that makes no sense. So sure, all this money is already being spent on Facebook, Instagram, etc. A lot more money, I think, will shift from TV, from radio, from other avenues. But what can you do now to stand out and be different? If everyone's going to bring their bad habits, how do you stand up? This doesn't change the cost in a lot of ways. I mean, to produce better content, there's two versions of it. One, you're spending more money in production, and I obviously that does cost money. But two, if you put some effort into deep thought, into storytelling, into how do you project the vision of your business out there? How do you get people to engage differently? That doesn't have to cost anything. And if you get that right, that'll skyrocket your business, because people will care about what you have to say. You'll be the thought leader. You'll be the person they trust. You'll be the person that they want to engage with. They will buy your vacuum cleaner when you have a more expensive one over the other guy, Jim, who's just standing there going, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. The great thing about this internet that we have is that everyone can play. And the bad thing is that everyone can play. So there's going to be more noise. And this is the difference. What happened before is you couldn't get on TV at nighttime. You needed a lot of money. And the average startup couldn't achieve that. This is why this regional Australia thing works, or the regional TV thing works, because it's a lesser, the price point is lesser. And even then they will still put out content that makes sense for them. But you couldn't get on TV, but you can get on Facebook. Anyone can. You can do it right now. You could be up and running with an ad account and some content in 40 minutes. And in 40 minutes, you could put a message out and that might be targeted well enough so that I'm seeing it. And if I'm seeing that, and then I'm seeing an ad from big brands at the same time, everyone has the chance. The playing field is completely leveled. But what that means is there's going to be noise. But if you can tell your story, share a message, do something, provide something that's good enough that people want to engage with, you will break through. You'll break through that noise. Everyone really has the audacity to think that people want to listen to them. Even me, and it was something I questioned a lot early on. It's probably one of the reasons why it took me a couple of years to go and start a podcast. Because it's like, well, I feel like I've got something to say, but do I? Do I have anything different to say? And we all do have our own perspectives. But you have to be able to draw on some experience or at least share a form of experience. And this is where you can do things that are very authentic. I mean, people think they need to be an expert, but you don't need to be an expert in everything. You can also just share a journey, because what we really do identify with is stories. And it's the story that makes sense to us. It's not that you're the professor, and you can do every math equation under the sun. We like to hear and share stories. I mean, just look at what we consume on TV. Have a look at the reality TV, whether it's a relationship play or we're doing a renovation show over here. We're not necessarily watching and consuming people that have got everything right. We like to share in their journey. We like to have a look at, we like to see their failures. We actually enjoy seeing them move through the natural progressions of, I guess, what a hero's journey is. And there's not always success at the end of these, especially if we're talking reality, but that's what we want to see. We love to look at adversity. We love to look at challenges being, overcome. But for some reason, when we go back to producing content and media for our own businesses, for our own organizations, and look, maybe that's a little challenging with a vacuum cleaner, but figure it out and find a way that you can share some real authenticity, not just, hey, we're great, buy this. Hey, we're great, buy this. If you do, you will break through and people will consume your story. I mean, we've been telling stories for thousands of years, writing on, painting on cave walls. If we could tell a story then, we can tell a story now, and we know it works, right? We know it works. This modern form of advertising has really only been around for decades. And there is not necessarily, it's not necessarily doing it well. So it worked for the big companies. Now we have this open market where everyone can do something. And because you can see, your neighbor do something and they're doing it well, doesn't mean you can, but you have that opportunity. So the door is open for you. So what should you do now? I guess right now you should focus on your why. And that can be difficult, but if you want to dig in, there's some great content from, say, Simon Sinek on finding your why and figuring out, you need to figure out how you can provide value to your audience. And if your customers and your customer base or your audience are really just, the same audience as your other three competitors in your field, why or how are you going to shine and stand up a little differently from them? How are you different? And once you work out how you're different, work out how you can be consistently. I mean, I got a good friend of mine who likes to wear what I can only describe as watermelon colored pants. And look, it's different, but he doesn't mind being different. He's remembered. He's often remembered in what he does, and that's just one aspect of how he does things differently. But we seek to conform, we seek to find community, we seek to, group ourselves with others. But the true challenge to us and the true, ability to find our own greatness is to be able to step up and stand out in front of everyone and be a little different. And that is the number one thing that you can do in this time to work on your marketing. Because your marketing, the actual nuts and bolts of marketing, it is changing and adapting rapidly beyond at a rate that is almost uncomprehendable at times. So You only can control what you can control, and that true control only lies in your story. So if you nail your story, you'll constantly be able to iterate this across different platforms as and when it makes sense. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, guys. Hit me up. I'd love to know what you think about that and adapting to change. Marketing is just a big beast of a topic, and I do love talking about it, but it's just something that is ever evolving, and you could never read enough and do enough. So focus on that story, focus on your hero's journey, find out what it is that makes you different, and let's go do that. Put that out there in the market. Hit me up on Instagram. Let me know what you think about it at Matt J Hanham, MATTJHANHAM, or on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you like. And at the end of most of my interviews, which this wasn't an interview show, obviously, but this was an inside out. At the end of most of my interviews, I like to ask my guests, about what is the one book that they would take into solitary confinement if they had to go there for a year? My question to you as the audience is, what book would you bring? Just picture yourself there, sitting on a bed, a grey cell, dim light. You've got nothing and no one with you, especially not your new iPhone. Nothing and no one with you, but one book. What book is that? I'd love to know.